3 reasons why you should think about owning your own property. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Sir O'Neal, aka Working Man T. Troy, and I bought my first home and multi-unit rental property in Brooklyn, New York by the age of 26, and I created this YouTube channel so that you can do the same. Now in this video, I'm going to talk about 3 reasons why you should absolutely think about purchasing your own property versus renting your apartment. The reason why I decided to make this video is because I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and he basically was telling me how his landlord decided to raise his rent by 20%. That's crazy if you ask me. So I decided that, you know what, I should make a video about 3 reasons why you should own your own property versus rent it. So stay tuned. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and drop a comment below and let me know if you're renting or owning. And if you do not own as of right now, let me know when you plan on owning. Is it 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. The first benefit of home ownership that I want to talk about is equity. So basically, equity is the difference of what your property is worth minus what you owe on the mortgage. So for example, if your property is worth $100,000 and you owe $80,000 on the mortgage, your equity in that property is $20,000. And basically, that $20,000 is yours to keep. That is contributing to your wealth. This is very important because equity is the name of the game. The more equity that you build up in your property, the more leverage you have. So you can do different things with the equity in your property. So one thing, for example, that you can do with equity in property, you can do a cash out refinance. So basically that means you're gonna refinance on your mortgage, take the cash out, and then you can use that cash for something else. A lot of people usually use those to purchase another property. So they would take out the equity in the property and then use that equity that they pulled out as a down payment on another property, and they can continue that cycle and buy more and more real estate. So it's really cool to build up equity in your property because you can leverage it in so many different ways, and it can really help you to start building wealth. So definitely that is the main benefit of owning a property versus renting. The second benefit of home ownership that I want to talk about is appreciation. So we know what equity is. Equity is just simply the difference between what you owe on your mortgage and the amount that the property is actually worth. Now, the other benefit of home ownership is home appreciation. So approximately, home value is supposed to go up year over year by 2%. So in certain circumstances, that it could be much higher or it could be lower. But in this current environment in 2021, we already know what's going on in the housing market, how it's crazy right now. A lot of places are selling for well over the asking price, so home value is definitely going up much more than 2% year over year. So this is a perfect example of the appreciation that a lot of properties are seeing. It could be forced appreciation, it could be external factors that's causing appreciation, and so on and so forth. But nonetheless, a lot of times properties are expected to appreciate at least 2% year over year, and as a homeowner you get to benefit from that appreciation because come when it's time to sell, you can sell for a much higher value versus what you paid for if you hold on to the property long enough. The third reason why I think you should own your property versus renting. So when you own the property, you have freedom. Now, a lot of people say you're a slave to the bank until you pay it off, or you're a slave to Uncle Sam because you got to make sure you're paying your taxes and stuff like that, because if you fall back on your property taxes, or you fall back on your mortgage, the bank is going to come take back the property, foreclose on your property. Uncle Sam could also get involved and get your property foreclosed on if you don't pay your taxes, so on and so forth, yada yada yada. We know those things to be true, but here's the difference between the freedom that you get from your home ownership versus the freedom that you get from being a tenant. So as a tenant, you wouldn't have to worry about the big ticket items in the apartment. So for example, if something breaks down, you could just simply call your landlord and your landlord will get that fixed, or they should get that fixed for you. So you don't have to worry about paying mortgage, you just pay your rent and that's it. So that's the freedom and the flexibility that you get as being a renter, just to name a few. However, as a property owner, the freedom that you get is much different. So you will get the benefit of owning your property outright once you pay off your mortgage. Nobody can tell you what to do with your property in 99% of cases, unless you're in a condo or something like that, condo or co-op. I don't like those for personal reasons, because I don't want somebody to tell me what I can and cannot do with my property once I purchase it. So I don't mess with condos and co-ops. But anyway, if you own a regular single family or multi-family home, or if you're not in an HOA area where they basically have their rules and regulations as well, you should be just fine. So in my opinion, the freedom that you get from being a homeowner outweighs the freedom that you get from being a renter. Because one of the biggest cons of being a renter is that once you're at the end of your lease, your landlord can decide to hike up your rent. And that's exactly what happened with my friend. He was at his property for a few years. Everything was going fine. He was paying his rent on time every single month. That was his main priority. However, since the illness happened, a lot of people have been moving out of his apartment complex. So now, what does that mean? That means the landlord gets left whole in the bag. They still have to pay mortgage on their property if they do have one. They still have to pay their staffs, which they definitely do. They still have to pay all these other servicing fees. But the problem is, a lot of people then left the apartment complex and there isn't enough application coming in. Now, basically, this is what my friend is telling me about the apartments. From what he's seen, he said that it seems like every day someone's always leaving the apartment and people aren't moving in as fast. So given that the landlord still got to pay his bills, what is the next logical thing for them to do? So are you gonna A, raise the rent so it can help to cover the cost of all the people who've moved out? Or B, is he gonna keep the rent just about the same and just eat the cost and pay out of pocket for all the different fees and stuff that he has to pay for each and every month? I'm gonna say A. That's my answer. I hope that's your answer too. I'm gonna say A. He's gonna want to raise that rent so that it can cover the difference of all the people who's moving out of the apartments in the complex. And that's exactly what I told my friend, because when my friend told me the amount that the landlord raised the rent by, it was absolutely ridiculous. This man raised his rent by 20%. That is insane if you ask me. 20% is just unbelievable. And unfortunately, in a state like New York, even though New York is a tenant-first state, don't get me wrong, New York, they will hold down the tenant like all day, every day in a lot of cases if the tenant really knows their rights. But here's the problem. Unless it's a rent-controlled apartment, in New York State, or in New York City at least, I don't know about New York State, but I assume it's pretty much the same or very similar. But in New York City, the landlord has the right to raise the rent to whatever amount he deems is needed to maintain the operation of his business. So the New York State governor, mayor, nobody can come and say, hey, Mr. Landlord, you gotta lower your rent. As long as people are willing to pay that amount, he can pretty much charge whatever he wants. So I think that's what they did with my friend. They decided to raise the rent to compensate for the fact that a lot of folks are moving out. So that way they can get some additional income. I would assume that they're doing it for other people in the building as well. And I would assume that's part of the reason why some people are moving out. So in my opinion, that's very jacked up, man, to raise the rent by 20%. So that's a reason why you don't want to rent versus if you own your property. Once you sign the closing documents, your mortgage is pretty much set. Like, it's for that interest rate that you agreed upon, unless you did a variable interest rate that changes from time to time. If you get a fixed rate, which I think you should, especially in this environment, your mortgage payment should be the same month over month. It shouldn't be any surprises until you pay it off entirely. So that's one reason why the freedom in your home is better than the freedom in an apartment. But anyway, guys, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the love and the support. It's truly appreciated, and I was gone for a little while. You guys definitely hit me up in the comment section just to let me know that you guys want some more videos from me. I really appreciate that, because you know I'm such a small YouTuber, life gets in the way, yada yada. I'm still learning, but I appreciate that you guys are always looking out for me. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Peace. I'm out.